What's up, guys? I've been a physiotherapist for 5 years, and even I can get overwhelmed with all the information out there about how to treat this injury, how you fix this. It can be super overwhelming. That's why here at the Movement, we use a simple 3-step framework that will completely change the way that you view rehab. Now, it is going to be simple, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to be easy to implement. And that's why I'm going to jump over the whiteboard and we're going to dive in. So let's go. All right, so I'm gonna cut right to the chase because I know our attention span these days is not long. So here's the 3 steps. Calm it down, build it up, bridge the gap. Now, if you just want that, you can tune out. But if you wanna stay all the way through this video and get all the details on these 3 steps, it's gonna change the framework of rehab for you for the rest of your life. Let's do it. So, calm it down. This is the first phase of the 3-step process where we want to reduce the discomfort and the pain that you're having. Now keep in mind, you may enter into this 3 steps at any point on this graph here. You may start in the calm it down, you may start here, you may start in bridge the gap, it all depends. But if you're starting in the calm it down phase, we really want to try to reduce the amount of discomfort that you're having. And we do this in a couple ways. Number 1, we're going to modify. So we're gonna modify some of the movements that you're doing that are causing you pain. For example, if flexing your back forward is painful, we're gonna try to reduce or modify the movements that are flexing your back forward for a short period of time to help calm the symptoms down. So this is always going to depend on what you got going on, but you're probably going to have to modify a little bit. And what this might include is reducing your preferred activity or sport, or doing it in a little bit of a different way, or maybe even completely taking it out for a period of time so that we can calm the symptoms down. So if we don't calm things down, we ain't building them up. Number 2, we want to find an entry point to load. So this is key, and this is where a good thorough assessment comes into place to understand where are you on the spectrum of loading and how can we start to implement it. Here at the Movement, we're huge fans of using movement, exercise to start calming tissues down. So that might look like a modified squat. That might look like a modified lunge. That might look like some isometrics. Whatever the entry point is for you, we will identify that through the assessment and we will start to load that tissue because we want to start to expose it to some of the movements that you're having trouble with in the most gentle way possible to start. So always finding an entry point to load is going to be key. It might take us a little bit of time to find where that is for you, but we will start adding in some movement and some loading as soon as possible. Number 3, and this is a super key part of Calm It Down, is education. So a big part of what we do as physiotherapists is educate you guys. You better understanding your injury and how it's going to respond and how long it's going to take and the expectations that are going to go around that are super important. So we will spend a lot of time educating you on what the process looks like to rehab this injury to get you all the way back to your preferred activity or performance. So that'll be also a key thing in the calm it down phase. Now, build it up. This is where I like to say it gets a little bit more fun. So this is where rehab starts to progress. We're doing some more fun exercises. We're challenging your body a little bit more. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to increase load, hence build it up. So what this might look like is progressing some of the exercises that we started with in the calm it down phase. That could be making it a little bit more challenging. So for example, going from a goblet squat to a box to a goblet squat to full depth. Or it could look like adding more load. So we could add more weight to your goblet squat. Or it could look like changing the tempo. So we could change a tempo where you're going 3 seconds down, 1 second at the bottom, 1 second up. All of these things can be progressed based on who you are, where you're at, what equipment you have access to, all that stuff. But a key is we need to start increasing load and making things more challenging so the tissues adapt. A big mistake people make and the lack of guidance that people get is they get stuck in this phase and they don't challenge themselves more. Hence a post that we recently did about if you're still doing clamshells on the bed, 3 months into your rehab, you probably need to look for someone else to help you with rehab, because we need to progress beyond that. And that's no knock on the clamshell, it's a good exercise. So we want to increase load. We want to start thinking about return to sport or activity. So in this phase, we're going to start really thinking about what are you going to get back to. I'll use a runner, for example. In this phase, we might really start thinking about a return to run program in some capacity. So that might look like some run walk intervals. That might look like some rucking or some hiking, things that are going to start preparing their tissues to return to their preferred sport, which would be running. We like to say that your activity is actually going to be your rehab when your tissue is ready to take it on. It's just going to be in some type of modified capacity so that you're not going back to that full level of sport too early and you're flaring yourself up. So that is going to be really key, whether that's running, whether that's squatting because you're a power lifter, whether that's thinking about, okay, you're a gardener and you need to spend an hour in the stooped over position. How do we start exposing your tissues or breaking that activity down and exposing you to it in the rehab process? So this is a massive part of the build it up phase. And that's going to lead into the last phase, which is going to be bridge the gap. Before we go there, actually, 3, navigating flare-ups. This is huge because in the build up phase, there's a higher likelihood that you are going to experience some pain. You're going to experience a flare-up because we challenge your body a little bit too much. This is part of rehab, unfortunately. Now, we don't go out trying to make things flared up, but as we're progressing and as we're challenging your tissue, you may run into some pain, some discomfort, some flare-up. And that's why we like to say rehab is not linear. It's not going to be this beautiful trajectory up. It's going to be up and down, but it's going to be moving in the right direction. So you might have a little flare up. That's part of the process. That's why we're here to navigate this. And the main thing we want to do is we want to avoid the nasty cycle of rehab that I see a lot. And that's that people get through the calm it down phase and they start to get to the build it up phase and they're feeling a lot better and they rush back to their activity without preparing their body for load, and they end up flaring themselves up and they come all the way back to the calm it down phase. And now we're in this nasty cycle that no one wants to be in, that really makes you sad, that really makes you feel like, I'm not gonna get there, what am I doing? We wanna really avoid this, so learning how to navigate flare-ups is going to be key. Now we'll go to the bridge the gap phase. So bridge the gap phase, this is where we bridge the gap between rehab and performance means relative to you. So that might be getting back to high level hockey. That might be getting back to hiking. That might be getting back to picking your child up. That might be getting back to gardening for an hour every day because you love gardening. Whatever your performance is, we are going to bridge the gap. And this phase here is often skipped or not guided by a clinician appropriately. And the reason why we've built ourselves up here at the Movement the way we have, our skill set, our space, is to make sure that we can help you through this full process. So when you get to the bridge the gap phase, one thing you're going to see here is we're always going to increase load. We're always going to challenge you more because we need to make sure that you are 1, strong, 2, your tissues are tolerating load, 3, you're confident that you can do the loads required in your activity. So we're always going to challenge exercises more. We're always going to progress them. There's a bunch of different ways that we can do that. This is going to be key. Number 2 is going to be sport or activity specific loading. So this is being able to start to bridge that gap to performance. So we're going to start looking at what is it required for you to go back to hockey, to go back to running, to go back to picking up your kid. And we're going to start exposing to this. A lot of this phase includes plyometrics, so jumping, landing, cutting. It might include some running or sprinting. It's going to include some power exercises like box jumps, ball slams, heavy weighted squat jumps, a lot of different challenging loads that are going to build you up to be able to go back to the sport that you are able to do. A lot of times in this phase also we'll have some sport-specific testing that we do, some objective numbers that we want to see from our athletes, from our clients that are going back to higher level activities. This is super important. If you are going back to running and you haven't been exposed to any of the actual demands of running in your rehab, you need to do that because we don't want to miss this phase. And the last part, and I think is really important, is a plan to return. So even though your tissues are ready, your body's feeling good, you don't have any pain, there should be some type of graded plan to get you back to running, get back to soccer, get back to hockey. It shouldn't just be like, okay, we've done all of this exercise, now just go back to playing hockey 5 days a week. We want to come up with some type of return to sport plan where we're slowly exposing you to the actual activity so that you can feel confident, your body's ready, and we're not just going back too fast. So that's one thing that we really spend a lot of time with our clients on, is like, how do we expose you to that so that you get to your goal of getting back to your activity? So these are the 3 steps that are key to rehab and to avoiding all these mistakes of like, what fix do I get? Who do I go see? What is the magic pill that I need to take? There's no magic pill. There's just this process. Now, this process is a framework. It's adaptable to everyone, and it's based off the principles of rehab. So that's why we feel so confident in utilizing this framework. And we teach this framework to all of our clients so that the next time they have a little injury, something pops up, they can start to implement this framework on their own. And maybe they're able to manage their issue by themselves. If they're having trouble, they can't figure it out, maybe they get stuck in this phase, then obviously they're gonna come see us. But we wanna give you, our clients, the tools to manage this on your own. And that's why our mission here is to empower people to take control of their health. This framework, you taking this framework and implementing it based off us showing you how to do it, that's empowering. So these are the 3 steps. Let me know what you think. Have you utilized this framework before? Are you having trouble with an injury? Maybe you're stuck in this nasty cycle. Feel free to reach out. There's a link in the description where you can set up a time to meet with one of our clinicians. You can DM us on Instagram. You can send us an email. You can comment in the video, whatever it is. We want to hear from you. We want you guys to know these 3 steps, implement these 3 steps, and feel confident in your rehab. So that's all I got for today, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you think about this video if you want more of these whiteboard sessions. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.